Guys, this is Grace and welcome to my channel and welcome to layout number 4 in our latest homemade scrapbook kit series. This is where I had pulled out some items in my stash and built my own scrapbook kit, and then I am just creating layouts with that particular kit. I gotta tell you, it's been forever since I've made my own homemade kit and I am struggling. This is layout number 4 and I am finding myself pulling things from my stash that is not part of my kit. I don't know if it's because um, I didn't put the kit together well enough. I guess I'm rusty in that I made sure that I have everything I needed, or there were just so many other things in my scrapbook area that it was you know, getting my attention. I don't know which one is the answer to that, but all I know is that like these flowers, they were not part of my initial kit, but I see them and I figured it is a Mother's Day themed layout, and I'm also following a sketch that had some florals in there, so I'm just thinking why not. But again, I always take some kind of learning when I do these series, mostly learning about myself. Like, what is it that I thought was a success, and what are the things that from now on I'm going to put into consideration, or I'm going to make sure that I note for the future. I'm not quite sure for this particular one. All I know is I am learning as I go. I did a lot of pre or prepping cutting before I started this double page layout video. One of the things that I prepped was the papers that you see on the left side. So if you remember in layout number 3, I cut out some 3x3 papers and I turned them into diamonds, and then I created some form of quilt um, centered design. So with this one, again, I'm basing it off of a sketch, and the sketch called for, again, more 3x3 papers, but this time around, they're not turned into a diamond. They're just squares, and they are mostly on the left side. So I'm just following that, but I'm also going to add a little bit of spin by creating some double layered borders. I'm going to use that multicolored stripe paper that you see that I cut out a 1/4 inch of, and then I'm punching out the scallop with the solid brown paper, and then using my punch border from American Crafts that I did pull out for this particular kit. So that's kind of a win for that. I'm just going to trim this. The sketch only had one border there, but I figured I needed a double layer because I needed some color for this scallop border, but then at the same time, I didn't want just a straight edge that I will get with the striped border. So I'm gonna just marry them together because why not, right? So I'm gonna adhere this with some glue. Now, as you can see, most of my photos are 3x4 and they're horizontal in orientation. And I did add one photo on this block right here, but I pulled it out because it wasn't matching, meaning that there was a little bit of space of that you can see the pink background paper peeking through, and that's not a big deal in the big scheme of things, but I didn't like that, so I'm pulling out one of those papers, and then trying to figure out what I can do to maybe I can create a frame so that I don't have to see the background on there. But I'm just going to leave that be for right now and create my borders until I am ready to tackle that again. That's one of the beauties about creating for me, is that when I'm kind of stumped, I can just move on and do some other things. I notice that like if I'm doing a painting or something of that effect, I can't really like jump from one thing to another. I guess I can jump from like if I'm painting a bouquet of flowers, I can jump from one part of one flower from the bouquet and then do the next one. But as far as like those kinds of things, I have to just plug along and do them. Not like paper crafting. What I've noticed anyways is that I can jump from one activity or one portion of the creative process and then to the next until, as I mull over or think about what I'm going to do with that particular part of the layout. It doesn't stump me because I am moving around and doing other things. Like I said, I have already pre-cut these papers and they are 3 by 3. And I love about this is that these papers are double-sided, and so I can get 6 designs out of the 3 papers. And as you can notice, these are the same exact papers that I used for layout number 2 and also layout number 3. I just like the combination of those papers. One thing that I did like about the kit that I created is the combos of the papers that I had pulled. I love them. I think they work really well together. The colors all match, and the design or the feel of them is also good. They have a outdoorsy feel, but then they also have that homey feel, especially with those home or house icons. So I'm just about finished creating this background for my left side of my paper or my layout. And then now I'm going to build the border because I wanted to have, of course, that bookend type of feel. So if I'm doing the border on one side, that has to show up on another side of the layout. And as you can see, I've also kind of worked with the flowers that I'm going to use for this layout. These are all from my stash, and I think I've mentioned this before, but I rarely use flowers now. But something about this kit or about the layouts that I'm creating, or maybe it's the sketch that I'm following, I'm gravitating towards those flowers. And it's a good thing because those flowers are just sitting in a container right in front of me at my table so I can see them. And they are giving me some inspiration to use them. So I have 2 vertical photos because the rest are horizontal. And with these photos, I am going to mat them on white cardstock just because they are going to sit in front of those pattern papers. And I don't want them to get lost with that beautiful background. So I needed to mat them to have that differentiation between the pattern paper and also the photos, and I'm going to overlap them and they're going to sit right there on the edge. But before I adhere that, I'm going to add a few details to the squares. This is exactly what I did with layout number 3, and I apologize if my lighting of my video is pretty bright. I have my video going on auto, and so sometimes it's just doing its own thing and they think that it needs more light when it really doesn't. So I apologize for that. I think my papers are a little too bright, and it's just making like there's not enough contrast on the video for it to catch the darker side to make it even, to make the colors and the brightness even. Also, another thing, I don't know if you noticed, but another thing that I did with this particular layout is, I've said this before, I think it was in layout number 3, is that a lot of scrapbook generation sketches, they create their elements that goes all the way to the edges of the paper. Now, that's not a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. unfortunately for me, my comfort zone or what I'm used to is having a little bit of border. So because it's my layout and I can fix the sketch the way I think it's supposed to in my eyes, that I went ahead and added just a tiny border on the top and bottom of my layout. So I kind of squished those papers to go a little bit more towards the center, and same goes with the photo collage on the right side of my layout. I also added that with a little bit of border. Okay, so now I am going to tackle this particular photo that I think needed to be matted or to have something behind it so I'm not seeing the pink. I am just calculating or measuring rather the paper and the photo as well, and I'm going to find a paper that will be good to mat it. So I have all of my scraps over here and I'm just trying to figure out which one would work best. I think that pink one. Now, granted, that was also a pink, and you're probably wondering, why didn't she just leave it that way where the pink is showing? I don't know. I just didn't like it. But I think one of the things why it didn't look good in my eyes was because the photo had it wasn't centered around the space that is in. So that's one of the reasons why I'm fixing it here. I wanted to have a border all around it so that it looks like it's really a frame meant for that particular photo. And now I am happier with the way it looks. So I'm going to adhere the paper first. And I also like how this paper has some subtle stars around it so that it will add a little bit of design. Granted, I did cover them up, but it's still, I feel like that photo or that framing emphasizes that photo. Speaking of photos, these are photos of Mother's Day for 2020. So my family asked me what I wanted to do, and this was the time, I don't know if you remember, but there was a time where we were all asked to stay at home. We could go out, but 6 foot distance from others other than your family members or the people that you live with. And so that's what we did. We had church at home. And then in the afternoon, I asked my family if we can go walk to a nearby park and then play some basketball. Because I just, at this point, especially with always being at home, I had the strongest craving for outdoors. Like anytime that the sun was shining and it was good weather, I wanted to be outdoors. I think it was the fact that that was taken away from me, like the ability to just go whenever I want to, and so I crave that a lot. So that was my Mother's Day request from my family, and also my request was that all of us will do it because my husband and I would go on walks, but my kids didn't want to join us. You know, there's times where they didn't join us, but this time around, because that's what I wanted for Mother's Day, everybody joined in and we all had fun. And then, of course, we went home, and then my husband grilled some steaks, and then I had bought some tres leches cake from a local bake shop, and so that's what we had for dessert. So the title for this particular layout will be A Mother's Day Dream, because I felt like the day was a dream. Everybody was oh, and I forgot, in the morning, my family, my kids and my husband made breakfast, and they made crepes. So that was very impressive of them. But they all worked together and made the breakfast. So Mother's Day for me is one of my favorite days because then I get to be treated like a queen. Of course, I should be treated like a queen every day, but I don't ask of it because there's just things that I would just rather do than have to deal with it. But I do like that one day out of the year where everything that I ask, it gets done. So I like that. Anyway, so that's the title, and I did a combo of Simple Story stickers as well as a chipboard gold plated, I guess that's the word dream, and that's a thicker one. So now I am adding some flowers. Sorry, my head is in the way. I am trying to find the combinations of flowers that I have specifically chosen for this layout. I decided to pick colors that I can find in my photos so that they're all well matched, and then they are layered. So I have some medium size one. I don't have an overly large one. I just didn't think that it would work well, especially with a lot of the things going on already on this layout. But I will be adding some medium size and then some smaller size. I like that the beige and the brown flowers, they already have pearl inserts or rhinestone inserts on them, so I didn't have to add that, so that was kind of fun. And then I am creating my collage on two sides of my paper, one on the bottom left and then another one on the top right.